Join us at Women of Courage and celebrate the achievements of women. In this segment of our show, we are going to discuss the abuser. We're going to discuss his objective. What does he want? The objective of the abuser is to have power and control over every aspect of his victim's life. That is his goal. He wants to keep his victim, and he wants to be able to tell her what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and how often to do it. He also wants to make certain that no one knows that he is exerting this type of power and control over his victim. He wants to continue to get away with his schemes. He wants to appear as the perfect husband. He wants to appear as the perfect suitor, the perfect boyfriend. Again, we suggest that you listen to this broadcast again on our YouTube channel, Touched by the Light Publishing. This is show number 53. And the title of the show is What is Behind Domestic Violence? One thing before we get started in discussing domestic violence again, domestic violence, the abuser can be anyone. Domestic violence abusers can be judges, police officers, insurance agents, salespeople, grocers, linemen, cab drivers. They can be absolutely anyone. There is no profession that bars a person from being a domestic violence abuser. There are no financial brackets that bars a domestic violence abuser. And there are no religious groups, political groups, or any other characteristics that bars a man from being a domestic violence abuser. Domestic violence abusers can be found in every walk of life. Any man can be an abuser. Never make the assumption just because a man smiles and is pleasant in public that he is not an abuser. Now, let us start again. What is domestic violence? Domestic violence is a pattern of controlling behavior used to maintain power in a relationship by one partner over another. It is a pattern of controlling behavior. The abuser's behavior is to control. His objective is to exert power and control over his mate. While women are disproportionately victims, men can also be victims of domestic violence. While each case is unique, abusers use a range of abusive behaviors to control. Their patterns include physical, emotional, psychological, and sexual, financial, and spiritual abuse. These abusers will use any tool to control their spouses or their intimate partner's behavior. Isolation from friends and family, using children as a bargaining tool, and threatening deportation or using a victim's legal status as a means to keep her in an abusive relationship are also common patterns of domestic violence abuse. Often it is difficult to identify various forms of abuse, particularly when they are indirect or not as obvious as physical or sexual violence. Now here are some various forms of domestic violence. The abuser uses dominance, abusing hierarchy of privilege, treating her like she's a servant, and you make all the big decisions, acting as you're the master of the castle, being the one of defining men and women's roles. He uses economic abuse, preventing her from getting or keeping a job, making her ask for money, blaming her for any financial gaps, taking her money, limit or removing access to family income. Spiritual abuse, manipulating religious texts to dominate or demand obedience, justifying beating, limiting physical movement, coercing the partner to have sex by citing it's a God-given right for husbands to have sex, using isolation, controlling what the woman does, who she sees and who she talks to, what she reads, where she goes, limiting her outside involvement, using jealousy to justify his actions, minimizing, denying, and blaming, making light of the abuse and not taking her concerns about it seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, shifting the responsibility for the abusive behavior, saying she caused it, using children, making the victim feel guilty about her children, using the children to relay messages, using visitation to harass her, threatening to take the children away from her. Cultural abuse, acceptance of the in-law abuse, physical, emotional, and financial, using cultural norms as a tool to limit physical movement, to justify beatings, demand subservience, limit the role of the woman to the wife and mother, and preventing her from working, preventing her from possibly remarrying by accusing her of adultery as a way to impact her honesty or chastity, using immigration status, threatening to deport her and her children, report her to INS, not fill out her paperwork to file for citizenship or permanent status, intentionally withdrawing paperwork once it's been filed to jeopardize her legal status, not allowing her to learn English, isolating her from anyone that speaks her language, using coercion and threats, making or carrying out threats to do something to hurt the victim, threatening to leave her, to commit suicide, making her drop charges against you, making her do illegal things, using intimidation in the relationship, making her afraid by using looks, actions, or gestures, smashing things, destroying her property, abusing pets, displaying weapons, using emotional abuse, putting her down, making her feel bad about herself, calling her names, making her think she's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating her, making her feel guilty. I am going to pause for a second to take a short break while you listen to information regarding willpower and encouragement. It is all a matter of learning new behaviors. And please remember, it is easier to build strong minds than to repair injured people. What I said is a modification of a quote by Frederick Douglass. He said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." Now for my break.
You're watching Detroit's own WHPR TV. Detroit Live.
Hi, this is Renee stepping out on faith. You can watch me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the WHPR TV Now app. Download our free app at WHPR TV Now.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Attention women, have you ever asked yourself why society views you as a lesser being to a man? Or why most leadership positions are filled by men? I urge you to visit touchedbythelight.us and get your copy of this amazing, inspiring new book called Women of Courage Part 2. It's carefully written with a passion for all women. It's the time for all mothers, sisters, and daughters to come together as one. Unite together and understand your life and make a change today. Visit touchedbythelight.us and order the book Women of Courage Part 2 and feel the love and dedication it has to offer. Get your copy today. Are sex trafficking and literacy important to you? Would you like to help? Well, now you can. We meet twice a month on Saturday. I invite each and every one of you to join me at a local restaurant throughout the city to discuss the importance of sex trafficking and literacy in our community. We need your help now. If you would like a chance to give back to your community, I urge you to send an email to murderedvoices@gmail.com to get dates, times, and locations of each meeting. Again, email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com. Stand up and help us fight the good fight together. Attention women, have you ever asked yourself why society views you as a lesser being to a man, or why most leadership positions are filled by a man? I urge you to visit touchedbythelight.us and get your copy of this amazing, inspiring new book called Women of Courage Part 1. It's carefully written with a passion for all women. It's the time for all mothers, sisters, and daughters to come together as one. Unite together and understand your life and make a change today. Visit touchedbythelight.us and order this new book, Women of Courage Part 1, and feel the love and dedication it has to offer. Get your copy today.
Hello, are you downcast, emotionally and psychologically broken? Still finding it difficult realizing your deepest life aspiration and fulfilling your dream of ever becoming that courageous woman you have wanted? You don't have to worry about that anymore, as I provide you with the lasting solution to turn this around. I am delighted to introduce to you a 3 amazing and life-changing book series titled Women of Courage, Part 1, Part 2, and How to Become a Woman of Courage. These preach the personification of burning passion, courage, commitment, and inspiration we've simply felt compelled to express. These books are so inspiring. It motivates and encourages women to be more than the ordinary, influencing, and controlling life situations you thought you couldn't do. It educates you to break the social norms and become the unexpected and respected woman leader. It teaches you to support your own mind, your dreams, and helping you unleash your potentials. Now is the time to start thinking outside the box and overcoming emotional and psychological challenges. You too can change your world today. Why don't you challenge your fear and become a woman full of freedom that you have so dreamed of? Compared to the millions of ideas and thought it shares for your happiness and courage, the books are super amazingly affordable. You also have the privilege of reading an excerpt from the book before placing an order. Simply go to the website touchedbythelight.us and click on the book cover to learn more about these adventurous books. Do not compromise your dreamed freedom, strength, and boldness. I would highly recommend that you give this a shot. Best Women of Courage.
Are you ready to make the most important step towards realizing your deepest life aspirations and dreams of becoming an aspiring, courageous woman? If you are truly feeling prepared to learn all you could possibly need to know in order to set up your life for success and understand how to avoid the common mistakes that present the pitfall of most, even the grandest dreams and ambitions, while getting on the fast track towards building a powerful, lasting, and successful character, personality, and life, you are in the right place. With Women of Courage, we pride ourselves on providing ambitious, aspiring ladies with the ultimate, most comprehensive, one-stop source of invaluable knowledge designed with one single purpose: empowering you to efficiently start on your way to absolute success and successfully building your life the way you want it to be. Please watch the intro video.
Don't be discouraged. Yes, you can live a life you want to and be the person you want to. Be a goal-getter. Take this bold step to order and purchase these life-changing books so as to learn the detail of the struggles and limitations women faced before becoming the icons they are today. Then you can avoid mistakes too. I'm going to be honest with you here. There's only one inspirational book which has encouraged me not to be fearful as a woman, but to take a bold but little step to changing my low self-esteem and total life situation positively, so quickly and greatly. My little secret has been the book's titled Women of Courage. This book has been so amazing and knowledge-packed. Before now, there hasn't really been a right, perfect time to do the right or perfect thing. Most often than not, I've continued to wait for the right time to have things done, but it always never comes. Not until I got hold of the books, Women of Courage. To gain knowledge and becoming a woman of purpose, only then I was able to create the perfect and right time to grab every opportunity that confronted me. I was strong and determined never to get too comfortable and to stop growing. I was able to use and control my anger and temper for the right course. I became the woman of courage that was not deterred of what people say. I created and took advantage of every opportunity where people saw as limitations. Thanks to the story of many courageous and determined women of history. Interesting, isn't it? The success story of many women who read the book convinced me. Here I am, more refined, courageous, and living the kind of life I have always hoped for. You too can become the woman of courage and purpose everyone would admire, just like me.
The Women of Courage series was written to help women learn about themselves and to turn women into winners. You do not have to settle for life prophesized by your teachers, the church, your parents, or your friends. You can change the scenarios and play the starring role. In order for women to learn to believe in themselves, to become the person they want to be, it is important for women to know where they came from. History is the standard by which we judge ourselves. If you have a good self-image, you will believe the sky is the limit. You can do anything or become anyone. But if you have a poor self-image, your thinking will be chaotic and you may never reach your goal. For centuries, women have played an important role in the development of society, yet this role has been practically ignored in folklore and in history books. Men have always had the starring role. Men have been the keepers of faith. Men have been the saviors of society. Men have been valiant, steadfast, and true, while women have been relegated to the sidelines where the peace setters were men. Today we shall put the story straight. The everyday slugfest that was carried on by ordinary women for century after century after century has never been told. Today we present a pictorial representation to give you another view of the fight conducted by women. Pay particular attention to the conditions in which the women worked and note this was a fight for survival.
Why you should read Women of Courage. The book will inspire you to begin your life again. Read how females took courage to live exemplary lives, even though most were from humble backgrounds. The books teach the importance of courage in achieving the great things of life. The books motivate you to look beyond those things you think you couldn't do. The books give you the insight into your innate abilities that your fears have suppressed. There is no greater feeling than creating a new you.
God bless, and remember, believe in yourself and stand up.
Every day we wake and drive to work, and we see people walking around, smiling, giving the appearance of happiness, and we envy them. We wish that our lives were like theirs. We drive home and turn on the television, and we see people walking around smiling at their friends and spouses, and we envy them, and we wish we could live a life just like theirs. These thoughts bring misery into our lives because we believe what our eyes see. We accept what is in front of us as being true. We do not see the makeup artist in the background making the final touch-ups to the actor's face. We do not see the diet pills the actors shovel down their throats at night so they can avoid eating. We believe what we see, and what we see makes us miserable. We want to trade places. We begin to think, why could it not have been me? Why could I not have a car like that? Why could I not have a wife like that? Why could I not have a husband like that? Why could I not have a house like that? On and on the questioning continues until finally we are dissatisfied with the world around us. Why could I have not been born to parents like that? All these questions force us to turn inward, and we attack ourselves. We begin to say, I thought Mary would make a wonderful wife when I married her. Now she has grown fat. She complains every day. She never stops. I wake in the morning and she complains. I drive to work and she calls complaining. I come home at night and she complains. Will nothing change? Or you think, I thought Tom would make a great husband. Now I know all he thinks about is the next woman he's going to take to bed. I'm tired of watching him. I just don't care anymore. If he wants to take the entire neighborhood to bed, I don't care. How did I get here? Am I destined to live a life I do not want? A life I hate? Is there nothing going to change? Every day we make changes, we negotiate with ourselves. We make comparisons and we come up short, and we become more and more unhappy. This is why you must take action. Otherwise, your unhappiness will lead you to alcohol, drugs, petty feuds at work, extramarital affairs, obesity, then death. Yes, unhappiness can lead to death. This is why you must take control over your life. No matter where you find yourself, you must take control of your life. Taking control will not be immediate, but the more you work at reclaiming your life and restoring yourself, control will come. You must be careful when you start your reclamation process, because others around you will not want you to change. They will want you to remain the unhappy person you have always been. If you decide to return to school, keep it to yourself. If you decide to buy a new house, keep it to yourself. If you decide to move out of state, keep it to yourself. People have gotten used to the old you, and the new you may have problems exerting authority over your life with others and putting a down payment on the future. You simply may want to learn to play the piano. Do not listen when someone tells you you're too old to learn to play. If you want to learn to play the piano, do just that. Read the ads in the paper and find a teacher, or contact a local school for an instructor and begin learning to play the piano. This is your life, not anyone else's. Have you noticed how mean some older people are? The meanest comes from dissatisfaction. They spent their entire life doing what was expected of them, doing what someone else told them to do, and now they are 65, 70, or 80 years of age. They realize they never did what they wanted to do. Is that not enough to make one angry? Communication is the key. We spend a great deal of time learning to communicate with others. We should spend an equal amount of time learning to communicate with ourselves. We need to stay in touch with ourselves over the years. We need to ask ourselves, what is next? Am I following someone else's playbook? Are there any changes I can make to my life that will make me happy? After you determine what these changes are, you need to sit down and assess how easy or difficult these changes will be to achieve. The books You Are the Prophet of Your Life and The Devil's Cauldron give a different perspective on self-assessment. Knowing how to relate to others is just as important as knowing how we relate to ourselves. You'll be surprised at the reading. The books are not any other. The books are a good exercise for a reality check. The full complement of books on this website was written at great cost to the writer. Jealous, envy, and even hatred was explored. You will find Be Not Defeated in Hard Times, an acclamation to the human spirit. If you do not entertain defeat, you will keep on walking, talking, and working until you win. It is all a matter of goals and asking yourself, what do I want? You may say you want an F-150, but are you willing to work a second job to buy one? Or will you tell your wife why this truck is so important to you that you have to have one? It is all a matter of goals and self-examination. Why do you have to buy a dress every week? Why are you always trying to get the attention of Betty's husband? Out of all the men in the state, you have to try and attract someone else's husband? What does Betty have other than her husband that you envy, so that you have to take her husband to bed? Why was it necessary for you to sneak a peek in her dresser drawers and see how many panties she's had? Why does it make you feel better to humiliate others? Think about it. Why? Read and find your way out of the mess you're in. Reading and considering another point of view can incite you to a new idea or spark your imagination that will lead you to change.
As you can see from the information we just discussed, The abuser is intent on destroying the woman's power and belief in herself. He wants her to feel unstable inside. He wants her to believe that there is nothing she can do to change her situation. He wants her to feel helpless and that he is her only alternative for survival. This is an insidious situation. The abuser is intent on being permanently in control until the woman dies. He is all powerful and no one is going to take his power away from him. Do you see now why we must discuss this problem? This problem should be discussed in high schools and in colleges. This problem needs to be discussed in churches, in courthouses, everywhere, and including the home. Victims must be told in every language in this country that help is available, and society should be willing to provide this help. The ugliness of domestic violence has been hidden long enough. We must step up to the plate and stop this type of abuse in our country. No one should live in perpetual fear day in and day out. Now let us continue. We are now going to discuss some of the techniques used by men to maintain power and control over women. These are some of the techniques men use to control women and maintain control for years. The following is a list of behaviors that may indicate a potential batterer. It is not the purpose of this list to imply that every person with some of these attributes is a batterer or a potential batterer, but these are some of the techniques that are used primarily by batterers and abusers. First technique is jealousy. At the start of the relationship, an abuser will equate jealousy with love. The abuser will question the victim about who the victim talks to, accuse the victim of flirting, or become jealous of time spent with others. The abuser may call the victim frequently during the day, drop by unexpectedly, refuse to let the victim work, check the car's mileage, or ask friends to watch the victim. He may try to get the victim to move next door to his mother or sister so they can watch her. He will exhibit controlling behavior. In the beginning, an abuser will attribute his behavior, his controlling behavior, to concerns for the victim, for example, the victim's safety or her poor decision-making skills. As this behavior progresses, the situation will worsen, and the abuser may assume all control of the finances or prevent the victim from coming and going freely. Quick involvement. A victim often has known or dated the abuser for a brief period of time before getting engaged or living together. The abuser will pressure the victim to commit to a relationship. A victim may be made to feel guilty for wanting to slow the pace in the relationship. Another technique is unrealistic expectations. An abuser expects the victim to meet all the abuser's needs, to take care of everything emotionally and domestically. Here's the biggie: isolation. An abuser will attempt to isolate the victim by severing the victim's ties to outside support and resources. The batterer will accuse the victim's friends and family of being troublemakers. The abuser may block the victim's access to use of the vehicle for work or telephone service in the home. He will disconnect the telephone or take her cell phone from her. Another technique is to blame others for the problem. An abuser will blame others for all the problems or for the abuser's own shortcomings. Someone is always out to get the abuser or is an obstacle to the abuser's achievement. The victim or potential victim will be blamed for almost everything. Another technique is blaming others for feelings. An abuser will use feelings to manipulate the victim. Common phrases to look for: you're hurting me by not doing what I want. You control how I feel. Hypersensitivity. An abusive person is easily insulted or perceiving the slightest setback as a personal attack. Another technique is cruelty to animals or children. This is a person who punishes animals brutally or is insensitive to their pain. The abuser may expect children to perform beyond their capability, for example, whipping a 2-year-old for wetting a diaper or teasing children or siblings until they cry. Another technique is the playful use of forced sex. This behavior includes restraining the partner until their will during sex, acting out fantasies in which the partner is helpless, initiating sex when the partner is asleep, or demanding sex when the partner is ill or tired. The abuser may show little concern for his partner's wishes and will use sulking and anger to manipulate compliance. Verbal abuse is another technique. This behavior involves saying things that are intended to be cruel and hurtful, cursing or degrading the victim, or putting down the victim's accomplishments. Rigid sex roles. The victim, almost always a woman, will be expected to serve. For instance, a male abuser will see women as inferior to men, responsible for menial tasks, stupid and unable to be a whole person without a relationship. In other words, he tells a woman, you wouldn't be nothing without me. A woman needs a man to be anything. A dual personality, a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Explosive behavior and moodiness, which can shift quickly to congeniality, are typical of people who beat their partners. Past battering. An abuser will beat any partner if the individual is involved with the abuser long enough for the cycle of abuse to begin. Circumstances do not make a person an abusive personality. Then there are threats of violence. This consists of any threat of physical force meant to control the partner. Most people do not threaten their mates, but an abuser will excuse this behavior by claiming everyone talks like that. Abusers break or strike objects. This behavior is used as punishment, breaking sentimental possessions, or to terrorize the victim into submission. Any force during an argument. This may involve an abuser holding down his victim, physically restraining the victim from leaving or pushing or shoving, holding someone back in order to make demands, such as you will listen to me, is also a show of force. Now, do you see why it's necessary for society to intervene in these abusive relationships? The male is not going to stop because he's enjoying himself. He's doing exactly what he wants to do, and that's control his mate. I am going to pause for a second to take a short break while you listen to information regarding willpower and encouragement. It is all a matter of learning new behaviors, and please remember, it is easier to build strong minds than to repair injured people. What I said is a modification of a quote by Frederick Douglass. He said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Now for my break. This is a congratulations and a shout out to the Women of Courage show. Starting in July, we will be publishing articles in the Native Sun and the Highland Park Journal. The editors of both papers agreed to allow us to publish articles in their papers. In keeping with our mission, the articles will detail information regarding 4 linking subjects: reading, self-esteem, sexual abuse, and sex trafficking. To support our mission to bring you information on these subjects, we will appreciate it if you would advertise in these papers. These newspapers support us, we should support them. Give us a shout out at murderedvoices@gmail.com if you read, enjoy, and find our articles helpful. We thank you for listening and supporting our show. Our show could not have a greater audience. Don't forget to email us for dates, times, and locations for our Saturday meetings. God bless. It is important that we discuss domestic violence with our daughters because women need to know that there are some men who they date. These men are looking for signs in them that they can be controlled. These men are looking for women that they can easily manipulate and control. These men are looking for women with low self-esteem. They are looking for victims. They are looking for women who double think themselves. They're looking for women who are always apologizing and saying, please excuse me. They are looking for women who will feel thankful that a man is willing to marry them. These women have the same or similar characteristics of women who can be easily manipulated into sex trafficking. This is why it is extremely important that you discuss domestic violence with your daughters over and over and over again, and also that you discuss self-esteem with your daughters over and over again, and help them build self-esteem inside themselves so that they will not enter marriage blindly. The next segment that I'm going to introduce to you is a repeat of the risk factors involving sex trafficking. Next is extremely important. For a person to be at risk for brainwashing, it is necessary that at least one of the following characteristics be met. Again, for a person to be at risk for brainwashing, it is necessary that for at least one of the following characteristics to be present. Person have low self-esteem, have been physically or sexually abused, struggle with drugs or alcohol, having family environmental issues, low social economic status, in other words, living in poverty, or have little social or legal protection. I repeat, the person have low self-esteem, or has been physically or sexually abused, or struggle with drugs and alcohol, or have family issues, or lives in poverty, or has little or no legal protection. You must pay attention to these risk factors as they relate to your child. Do not fool yourself and say my child has high self-esteem. Check it out and make certain. Now for a closer discussion. Have low self-esteem. People with low self-esteem do not feel valuable or worthy to receive love and constantly seek the approval of others, including strangers, and they do not feel able to reject other people without feeling bad about it. Traffickers are masters at manipulating and exploiting at-risk youth. These traffickers groom their victims, gaining their trust and loyalty by preying upon their vulnerabilities and showering them with praise and gifts. Tell your daughters that if they are in the presence of a man who is always praising them and giving them gifts, they need to stop and take a closer look at this male. Talk to your children about grooming. Discuss self-esteem with your child. Ask your child how they feel about neighbors, family, and friends. What you want is for your child to alert you to any changes in behavior of these people. Take nothing for granted and stop trying to tell your children what to think. What you need to do is help them learn how to think. Remember, a child is not a miniature you. They are their own person and they are entitled to their own thoughts. Victims that have physical or sexual abuse or after an emotional or violent trauma. Any person, especially a child or a teen, is in an unstable psychological status that can be exploited by traffickers. Uncles are good for sexually abusing nieces and nephews. Person who struggles with drugs and or alcohol. Any person or teenager dependent on drugs or alcohol is physically and psychologically unstable and therefore vulnerable. Person who has family issue or is seeking family environment. This is especially important of cases where children or teenagers who have never had a home or live in a home with constant conflict and where they are treated with neglect. This could lead them to have poor academic successes and inadequate social skills, and often they become runaways. Desire to have a father and mother who does pay attention to them and show them affection put them at maximum risk. In a child seeking attention for a father or mother are at maximum risk. Pay attention to your child. The victim is a child living in poverty. One of the factors that traffickers always use in their favor is the monetary need of the victims. Children, adolescent, and adult women tend to succumb to the pimp's promise to provide economic stability, but the truth is that the victim of sex trafficking has no control over the profits of their work. For the person that has little or social or legal protection, traffickers often demonstrate a certain degree of power and some even beyond powerful gains. So they approach people who feel at risk of being deported or jailed to offer protection, false identities in exchange for sexual exploitation. Once the trafficker detects one or several of these vulnerability points in his objectives, he or she will seize any available opportunity to seek out the potential victim, including in-person tactics at malls, bus stops, walking to and from school, and outside group homes. Majority of traffickers now seek children or recruit children online through social networking sites and use the information obtained through these methods to relate, to build trust with the child more quickly and proceed to convince the victim to leave with him or her. To summarize, for a person to be at risk of brainwashing, it is necessary that at least one of the following characteristics are met. The victim has low self-esteem. The victim has been physically or sexually abused. The victim struggles with drug and alcohol dependency. The victim lives in poverty. The victim has little or no legal protection. Once the trafficker detects one or several of these vulnerabilities in his objective, he or she will seize any available opportunity to seek out the potential victim, including in-person tactics at malls, bus stops, walking to and from school, and outside of group homes. Keep in mind this information as we continue to discuss those men and women arrested and convicted of sex trafficking. This insidious behavior must be stopped. We must all participate in the prevention of sex trafficking. This activity is destroying our nation. The problems that you encounter in defeating your low self-esteem is that you do not believe in yourself and you have formed a habit of not believing in yourself, and you have surrounded yourself with low achievers and non-believers. I'm going to say this again. The problem that you are encountering in defeating your low self-esteem is that you do not believe in yourself and you have formed a habit of not believing in yourself, and you have surrounded yourself with low achievers and non-believers. Consequently, you have stopped growing and you are stagnant in your behavior. Unwittingly, you turn people off with who are high achievers and people who want more out of life. These people have left you by the wayside. Look around you. How many friends have you lost? How many friends have moved away and never looked back? They did not give you their forwarding address or phone number. Do not tell yourself that you lost your friends because they have more money than you, that they think they're better than you. Face the fact that you ran these people away. You refuse to grow up. You refuse to grow. You refuse to change. You are depressing to be around. You always have a problem that is never solved. You are boring and unpleasant to be around. You are unwilling to learn new things, to push harder, to get the things that you want. Face it, you are always looking for the easy way out. Maybe you lost these friends because they did not want to become involved in your silly criminal behavior. Maybe they valued their families more than you valued your children. They were not going to go to jail over a few easy dollars. Yes, that is correct. When you do not believe in yourself, that lack of belief leads you into criminal behavior because you become entangled with the word easy. Without thinkers in your life, you do not have anyone to introduce new and fresh ideas to you. So it is about time for you to learn to believe in yourself. If you can develop the habit of not believing in yourself, why can't you develop the habit of believing in yourself? You need to work at developing a positive habit of thinking. You need to develop a mantra. The problem is you do not believe, so how can I get you to believe? The first thing I want you to do is to leave low achievers alone. You need to find some better friends. You need to find some friends that actually know how to think and problem solve. Second of all, you need to start telling yourself, complimenting yourself on what you do well. You need to develop a mantra which says, I am going to change, I have changed, I'm going to find me a job, blah, blah, blah. In other words, I'm telling you to begin forming a habit of believing in yourself. And stop looking backward and stop your criminal behavior. Dear listeners, help us save a life. Stop breast cancer from taking lives. Will you assist us in putting the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer in the hands of 1 million people? Please go to the website www.touchedbythelight.us and download the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer. Then email this booklet to 5 friends, asking them to email the booklet to 5 of their friends. We are trying to reach 1 million women with this information to save lives. The death of 1 woman to breast cancer from our community is 1 woman too many. We thank you for your support.
You're watching Detroit's own WHPR TV. Detroit Live.
Hi, this is Renee stepping out on faith. You can watch me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the WHPR TV Now app. Download our free app at WHPR TV Now.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you for listening to Women of Courage and have a great day.